Hey guys! So today's video is another request. I am really nervous that I lost the name of the requester, and I tried to look through all of my comments and I could not find the person. Although I did have the name Pamela written down, so if your name was Pamela and you requested this, thank you so much. If you requested this and your name is not Pamela, please leave that in the comments and I will give you a shout out in the next video, because I feel awful that I lost your name. Because normally I write it in a certain order on my list and it wasn't the way it normally is, but I had the name Pamela in there, so I'm not sure why. So I apologize if I'm totally screwing up your request, your name shout out. Comment below and I will fix it. Today's video is going to be about the I Hate Mondays shooter, which was one I actually hadn't heard of before, surprisingly. And side note, I apologize if my nose keeps getting red. As usual, I have the worst sinuses in the world, so forgive me for being Rudolph today. Now, on this story, I did request the police report, and they were kind enough to respond to me and mail my check back, because I do have to pay for police report copies. And say that they had, I guess, destroyed it. It had been purged at that point. I guess because this is from the 70s. Now, I have gotten older police reports, but each county and each state probably has different laws of how long they have to keep things before it can basically be shredded, or sometimes they move it to an electronic copy now. But they didn't have a copy of the police report for this anymore, and I couldn't find one online. So sadly, I did not get the police report for this. So I grabbed as much information off of the internet as I could, cross-referencing different articles and such to try and get as honest an account as I could, including watching interviews of Brenda Spencer, who is the main subject of this shooting. So this shooting is also known as the Grover Cleveland Elementary School shooting. It happened in San Diego, California on January 29th of 1979. At this shooting, the principal and custodian were killed, sadly, and 8 children and 1 police officer were injured. A 16-year-old girl by the name of Brenda Spencer, who lived in a house across the street from the school, was convicted of the shootings. She was tried as an adult and pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon, and was given an indefinite sentence at the time. As of June 2019, she does remain in prison, and I will give you a little more update on that near the end of the video. Now, after the shootings happened, Spencer was still in her home, and a reporter actually called her home at this point because they were aware of where the shooting was coming from. And the reporter asked her why she did it, and Brenda reportedly stated, "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day." Now, this did inspire the very popular song written by the Boomtown Rats, "I Don't Like Mondays." So if you've heard that song, I actually heard it the other day for the first time. I wasn't researching this video. It came up on something that I was watching, and I thought that was very serendipitous that I was researching this topic and that song came up. But it's a good song, but it was based off of these killings. Now, Brenda is said to have identified as gay since birth. And being that she was 16 in 1979, this is probably something that really affected her mentally growing up. After her parents separated, she lived with her father, Wallace Spencer, in poverty. It's said that they slept on a single mattress on the living room floor with empty alcohol bottles throughout the house. Acquaintances said that Spencer expressed hostility towards policemen and had spoken about shooting one of them and had talked of doing something big to get on television. And as we go on, you'll see even more warning signs. Now, it's said that although Spencer showed exceptional ability as a photographer, and she actually won the first prize in the Humane Society competition, she was generally uninterested in school. Now, later down the line, during tests while she was in police custody, it was discovered that Spencer had an injury to her temporal lobe in her brain that came from a bicycle accident when she was younger. Now, this is the biggest warning sign that I read into her story. And this was in early of 1978, so a year prior to the shootings. Staff at a facility for problem students, which she had been referred to for truancy issues, informed her parents that she was in fact suicidal. That summer, Spencer, who was known to hunt birds in the neighborhood, was arrested for shooting out the windows of Cleveland Elementary with a BB gun and arrested for burglary. In December of that year, A psychiatric evaluation arranged by her probation officer recommended that Spencer be admitted to a mental hospital for depression, but her father refused to give his permission. So her dad had gotten a complete warning that something was really wrong with her, and he chose to do nothing about it. And we'll get into some more questionable qualities of her dad as we go along. Now, for Christmas in 1978, so this is a month prior to the shootings, he gave her a semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle with a telescopic sight, and 500 rounds of ammunition. Spencer later said, "I asked for a radio and he bought me a gun." When asked why he might have done that, she answered, "I felt like he wanted me to kill myself." Now, on the morning of Monday, January 29, 1979, Spencer began shooting at children waiting for the principal, and the principal was Burton Ragg. He was 53 years old, to open the gates at Cleveland Elementary. She injured 8 children during this process. Now, once the principal showed up, he immediately tried to help all the children get to safety, and that was when he was shot and killed by Spencer. Another gentleman who came to help all the children get to safety was Mike Suchar. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. Suchar was also killed while trying to rescue these children, and he was 56 at the time of his death. A police officer who was 28 years old responding to a call for assistance during the incident was wounded in the neck as he arrived, but he did survive this shooting, as did all of the children who were injured, thankfully. Further casualties, it says, were avoided only because the police obstructed her line of fire by putting a garbage truck in front of her house. So she was just inside her house shooting basically from out the windows. After firing 30 times, Spencer barricaded herself inside her home for several hours. Now, this was an interesting fact to me that they plugged this in, and I think it speaks to her state of mind and possibly the brain damage that she had. But ultimately she surrendered and left the house, reportedly after being offered a Burger King meal by negotiators. That's what got her out, to just give herself up. Police officers found beer and whiskey bottles cluttered around the house, but said that Spencer did not appear to be intoxicated when she was arrested. She was charged as an adult and pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon. On April 4th of 1980, a day after her 18th birthday, she was sentenced to 25 years to life. Now, under the terms of her indeterminate sentence, she became eligible for hearings to consider her suitability for parole in 1993. As of December of 2015, she has been unsuccessful at 4 parole board hearings. At her first hearing, she said that she had hoped the police would shoot her. So as soon as she started firing at these kids and the police showed up, she was really hoping that they would kill her. In her 2001 hearing, Spencer first claimed that her father had been subjecting her to beatings and sexual abuse, but he said the allegations were not true. The parole board chairman said that as she had previously not told any prison staff about the allegations, he doubted whether they were true. In 2005, a San Diego deputy district attorney cited an incident of self-harm 4 years earlier, so in 2001, when Spencer's girlfriend was released from jail, as showing that she was psychotic and unfit to be released. So her girlfriend got released and she somehow harmed herself, and they used this as evidence as to why she shouldn't be out of prison. Now, the self-harm is commonly reported as scratching the words courage and pride into her own skin. However, Spencer corrected this during her parole hearing as runes, reading unforgiven and alone. In 2009, the board again refused her application for parole and ruled it would be 10 years before she could be considered again. And as of now, she has a parole hearing scheduled for August of 2019. She now remains in prison and is housed at the California Institution for Women in Ohio. Now, a plaque and flagpole were erected at Cleveland Elementary in memory of the shooting victims, and the school was closed in 1983, along with a dozen other schools around the city due to declining enrollment. On January 17th of 1989, almost 10 years after the shooting, there was another shooting at a school named Grover Cleveland Elementary. It was named for the original school, and this one was in Stockton, California, where 5 students were killed and 30 were injured. One survivor of the 1979 shooting described herself as shocked, saddened, horrified by the eerie similarities in their own traumatic experiences. Now, in February of 2018, so just a little over a year ago, Brenda Spencer did an interview where she spoke on feeling really responsible for a lot of the school shootings that have happened since 1979. She is quoted to have said, "With every school shooting, I feel I'm partially responsible. What if they got the idea from what I did?" Now, when being asked about the shooting years later, she has forgotten a lot of details about it. She doesn't know how many rounds of ammunition she had, as previously she had stated so many hundred rounds. She doesn't remember that now. So she's lost a lot of memories from this, which I think speaks to the state of her mind when the shooting happened. A lawyer representing Spencer said that Spencer's father had never owned up to sexually abusing her, but he noted that while visiting Spencer at a juvenile detention center after her arrest, the father had met a girl there, and I read in one article that supposedly this girl was Brenda's cellmate. I'm not sure the validity of that, but this girl resembled Brenda very much, and the father went on to date and marry this girl, and they later had a daughter together. I believe she was 17 when the father met her. Now, there have been some statements of the children who were at the shooting in 1979 as adults. One named Crystal Hardy was 10 years old when she was shot. She described arriving at school and hearing shots and seeing the principal and the custodian lying dead. A teacher had called for her to duck. She said, "But I wasn't able to run from the bullet Brenda had for me." She recalled lying in the nurse's office, bleeding as bullets crashed through the windows. She said, "I was greatly comforted when the policeman arrived to carry me away. I can still remember the pool of blood on the nurse's bed, and the terror didn't end there. Later, of course, I had nightmares, and to this day, I fear that someone is pointing a gun at me when I'm walking in open places." She also went on to say, "Recently, my boyfriend wanted me to go to a shooting range with him because it's a sport that he enjoys. And although I was hesitant, I thought, well, it's been a long time. I'll probably be okay. And I sat there as he shot the silhouette, but he had to stop because I started frantically crying. It was completely uncontrollable." Another student by the name of Cam Miller attended a parole hearing in person and offered this statement. He said, "I was 9 years old when I was shot," and he recalled that his mother had just dropped him off at school directly opposite the Spencer's home, and he had been starting up the sidewalk when he saw the bodies of the principal and the custodian. He had then backed out as a bullet passed within an inch of his heart, exiting his chest. He survived but remained terrorized. That was creepy. He said, "I would have to call my mother 2 or 3 times each night to walk me around my house, just so I knew that Brenda Spencer was not inside my house." Now, he testified against her at her parole hearing, and he stated, "I walked into court and saw this monster glaring at me. The look that Brenda Foster gave me was enough to scare any young child to death." Now, the last statement I have from a student was actually more recently. There was an article written in February of this year, 2019, that talks about one victim who has actually been the lone voice in defending Spencer. Her name was Mary Rintoul. I apologize if I'm butchering that. And after 13 years of working in psychiatry, she points to the alleged abuse the killer suffered at the hands of her father and a dysfunctional upbringing into why the shootings may have happened. She says, and I quote, "Reading the reports and examining what was done to her, I don't condone what she did, but I kind of understand why she might have chosen that path." Mary says that every time there's a school massacre, painful memories flood back. She said, "The first big school shooting after mine was Columbine, and I cried for a week. I knew what those kids were going through." Her husband Neil only discovered her part in the shooting on one of their first dates in 1993. As they returned from a restaurant, the "I Don't Like Mondays" song started playing on the radio. Her boyfriend at the time said, "This is the Boomtown Rats," and started singing along with the song. And Mary responded, "I know, this song is about me," and then told him her story. Now, again, her next parole hearing is in August of this year, so I'll be very interested to see what happens there. My guess would be that with her history of psychological issues, she will probably be denied, but we never know what will happen at these things. So if you guys would like an update closer to that time, you can request that, and I'd be happy to give that. But Besides that, that's all I have for this week. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up below. If you would like to see more true crime videos, paranormal stuff, whatever you want, comment suggestions. I do keep up with all of your suggestions, and I am researching every single one of them. So if you'd like to see anything specific, please comment that below. But if you want to see more, subscribe. I upload new videos every Wednesday. And other than that, I will see you guys next week.